cold and not so sunny.
There's been a handful of Wodapalooza years where it's been, torrential downpour, cold weather like this. So now we're a little bit more prepared.
This is a little bit better than last year.
No one told you?
Nobody told me. I'm here in a t-shirt, bright colors. Everybody else is in like sweatshirts. You're in 2 layers. You are a Florida man.
Always be prepared. Always. Yes.
So we have Matt Torres here. We have Emma Cary. You guys have been working together. How long have you guys been together as coach and athlete now?
3 years.
What has it been like? Now you're in Florida, training, getting ready for the comeback.
It's amazing. Like, moving to Naples was such a big game changer. I see progress so much faster now, having immediate feedback and I've described it this way to so many people. It's like an experience I've never had before, just the love and the care and the attention to detail I have in Naples, and that's like my everyday. It's really cool.
Matt, what is it like actually having Emma here in person, being able to give that feedback instantaneous?
It's very important to be able to do that, and for youngish as she is, we still have to have that quick communication. And it's something that I share with her. It's something I share with all my athletes is, if there's a change that needs to be made in that moment, just listen, make the change, and let's just move right along. What it looked like prior in the years to now is a game changer, and we've seen a taste of it this week.
Sure. Oh, some technical. Let's make sure the audio sounds really good so everybody can hear us. How's it sound in the bad? We're getting thumbs down from our audience that they can't hear us. They said bad. We like the feedback.
Yellow. Oh, that sounds good.
Okay, Emma, want to test your microphone?
Test.
Test. There we go. Well, welcome, everybody. If you didn't know.
Let's just ask all the same questions all over again. Pretend like that never happened.
Rewind. Emma Cary, Matt Torres, working together in Naples, Florida. Obviously, we're going to get to your comeback and your 3rd place overall finish this weekend, but let's kind of go back to the end of last year or the end of your season. What has the building blocks and the work that you guys have been putting in to lead up to this moment where you ultimately made your first comeback leading into the 2023 season?
It's been patience and just trust in my coaches, trust in Matt, trust in Matt's sister, Nicole, who's been the physical therapist that I've been working with. It's been trusting them even when I thought we were moving too slow, when I just wanted to do more and more and more. And I remember Matt telling me, you'll thank me one day that we came back in a smart way, and that we didn't try to do everything all at once. And I mean, this was a time when I think I was doing snatch pulls at 105, and the last week I had done 95, and I was like, this isn't enough. I want to just test my snatch today or something. I mean, isn't this how that should work? And I mean, just as I've gotten further and further into seeing improvements, I am very grateful we took it slow, even though it was a hard process and lots of basic, boring accessory things. It was just trust in that.
So were you able to thank him yesterday
Yes.
or the day before?
Yes.
Matt, as a coach and allowing that athlete to trust the process, convincing her to have buy-in in you, how do you work through that and make sure that your relationship with your athlete is still moving forward and she has that confidence?
Yeah, it's a daily grind, honestly. It's something that we work on a lot more than sometimes than we really want to. It's not always just the X's and O's and going in there and just lifting weights and hitting these reps and whatnot. Sometimes it's the mental preparation, just moving from different parts of training, the breakdown after training's done to chat about, this is where we're at right now. This is what next week will look like, judging on what we just saw right here. Letting her know that what we're doing in training is completely different than the feeling that she's going to have in a competition. And I think now that we've made it to the end of this week now, she's able to actually know and understand a little bit more what I meant. And really for me, why I felt calm in these situations in during times that she may feel a little anxious. Like when she mentioned, I'm pulling 105 and I want to be pulling 205, and just saying like, hey, just trust it. Your fitness hasn't gone anywhere. We just got to play a little bit smarter than what we did up until this point. And so, you know, it's really in that day-to-day conversations that we have.
Was there a moment, and maybe it was this weekend, or was it in training where you thought to yourself, oh, I get it now. This is going to help me for maybe not even just this season, but longevity of the next 5 seasons?
It's been a lot of moments. I don't think there was one clear like breakthrough that I was kind of expecting. Like I was kind of expecting just to see like this huge improvement all at once, and it really wasn't like that. It felt like just pieces of a puzzle coming together. Like my deadlift got stronger, and I mean then all of a sudden I PR'd my squat, and it was like this shouldn't have even happened. I don't feel like, because I haven't been squatting heavy. And then it was really just like feeling like I crushed my old times in some workouts with high rep hinging. And it was like, this shouldn't have happened either because we're not really working on that. But then I think back to all of the stuff that we were able to work on, like all of the core, all of the accessory, like kind of the stuff that I thought was boring and like not as important. Like that was whenever the breakthroughs really happened. So like, even though in the moments when I saw the improvement, it felt really good, like it just reminded me of the trust that I had had in the boring stuff along the way.
Here, standing on the podium, how did it feel? Sorry, I'm having very bad heartburn. We're going to work through it. How did it feel standing on that podium, especially coming back from last year?
It felt amazing. It wasn't my ultimate goal. Like, of course, I mean, there were things I wasn't happy with from this weekend, just execution things, even fitness things. But the fact that I never stopped fighting, and I mean, the fact that my weekend was so up and down, so many highs and lows, like really just like the last year has been, to be able to end that in a way I was proud of. And I mean, in a way that like, that was just pure effort and grit and hunger and like the things that I feel like define me. That meant more to me, and just that I ended on the podium was like icing on the cake to that.
I'm going to swap in for Lauren for just a moment. A question that I had that we were talking about before we came out here was I believe it was yesterday's event, or now I'm losing track of my days because we've been here in Miami too long. But on the portion that was Dirty Isabel, where it looked like you tried to hang on to the barbell and I think your goal was to go unbroken. Was that a conscious decision that you guys talked about going into the workout? Was it a game time decision? I'm curious kind of what your thought was there.
I think for her, she was already really excited about that workout. Anything that starts with 30 burpees, you know, for her, she's going to breeze right through it. And there's not a lot of moments in events where we can, you know, take off the governor and just say, sprint as fast as you can. And so when she has those moments, she gets really, really excited about it. And I was just as surprised, like when I was seeing rep 18, 19,
Totally.
20, and she got to 25, I was like, guys, is she about to hold on to this? It's like, I didn't think that it was even possible.
All of us were like, wow, she's really going to go for this.
Yeah. And, you know, the conversation we had in the back is just listen to your body. You push as much as you can push. And I think as she got closer to 30, she's like, okay, I'm just going to go until I fail. Because then it's only, you know, a couple more burpees and then a few more reps. You know, but for me, it's cool to see that. And then for her, because I don't really let her do that a lot in training, just with the style of programming and the athlete that she is, she's very well developed in that grindy, you know, suffering mode. So we don't really need her to be pushing in that area a lot.
Sure.
So to finally have the chance to go and do it, I think she was really excited to be able to showcase it.
Yeah, I wanted to end the weekend in a way I was proud of.
For sure.
Like, of course, and I've already said, there've just been so many highs and lows in the weekend and, like, big disappointments. But, like, I did a very good job before that event of not letting them carry over into that and affect that, because there were 200 points on the board.
Yeah.
And anything could happen. I didn't have the best first part to that event. But, I mean, in that moment, like, it didn't matter where I ended up on the leaderboard. I just believed that was an event I could win. And I'm just the kind of competitor. I want to win every event I can by as much as I can.
Sure.
And like to have that opportunity and to believe that I could do that so much, like it just made me want to hang on and want to see what I was capable of. And I did really think I could go Unbroken. I definitely don't regret trying that. Like,
Yeah.
That's just a cool moment, and that's just really who I am. And I've learned to control that. And I mean, to know that like the beginning of a 20-minute AMRAP would not be the time to do something like that.
Sure. I'm like, note to self.
But just in a situation like that, like that's a risk. That's an intentional risk, and that's something like that is calculated, not just like. I mean, it's not random. And
Sure.
like, that was a moment that I was okay with failing because at least I tried, and at least I pushed that limit. And I mean, looking back on that event, if I would have broke and happened not to win that event, I always would have wondered if I could have hung on, and now I don't wonder.
We're having a great time. Tag team, do what you can. Anybody get stage fright? Maybe that's what just happened. I don't know.
You stage fright? I don't see that happening.
Yeah, you never know. Do you get stage fright? Yeah. I think it like through osmosis came over to me or something. I don't know. I think I heard Preslie asking you about the final event. When it came to any of like the other events, you've been talking so much about risk taking and really challenging your athletes. Did you guys just talk about this? Okay. Advancing to the next one. Moving forward from this, where do you take training once you go home coming off of a win? I'm sure like there's moments that you want to really like soak in the win, but at what point is it like, okay, now let's flip the switch. We need to prepare for the next stage.
Yeah. It happens piece by piece. So right now, the main goal is to make it back to CrossFit Games. So the obstacle that's in the way is semifinals. And so, you know, we really don't need to put the foot on the gas too much right now. It typically happens within like 2.5 months leading into it. So as she goes through the open, she's still training specifically to get in semis and for the games training as well. We'll use our Fridays for our open workout, one and done. We'll go into quarterfinals, and we're still kind of training throughout that week as well. You know, our goal is also to only do a workout once, and then it gets us best prepared to attack semifinals. So that last, like, I would say, quarterfinal time is when we're really starting to hammer the gas a lot more. And we're starting to see the goals that we set out for the year come together, and you can really start to see the improvements big time, even though like we saw them this week when she's doing the rope climb, we saw it this week when she's doing the 1 mile run, and scoring very well in that chipper, so we see it happening. Now we're going to continue to see these things come forward, which for her, you know, it means potentially top 10 in Madison, right? And so these are things that we'll start to you know, put a lot more emphasis in like what I would consider sports-specific type of training, as opposed to what we would do like a traditional interval-style training, where we're currently at right now.
Is there an event from the weekend that you are most proud of, like regardless of the placing, but just of your performance or your effort?
The chipper, because if I were to make a list of 3 of my biggest weaknesses, running and legless rope climbs would be at the top of that list. And if I were to kind of like pick apart every time I've ever competed, strategy and just executing, listening to my body, and not necessarily like the strategy I had going into it or where everybody else is at, that would have been my biggest mental weaknesses. So the fact that I saw physical improvements, but I mean, not just that, like even more importantly, I had the best strategy for me, and like areas where that strategy wasn't quite perfect, I was able to make an adjustment on the fly, because I knew that would be like my best score, not just being stubbornly attached to what I felt like the right way to do it.
When it comes to training, and I'm sure there's so much like mobility that goes into it, and PT just with, you know, having a back injury, are there certain movements that you're intentional about everything, but are there certain ones that you're like, okay, I know that I need to get to the gym 40 minutes early instead of like 20 minutes early to ensure that you do the proper things before you hit whatever it is?
Honestly, no. My back is the strongest and healthiest it's ever been, and it's not really a thought in day-to-day training anymore. So that's good.
That's awesome because I mean, I think that, and I'm sure you've worked with athletes, that's one of the biggest things is getting over the hurdle of like having an injury, and like that slight hesitation in your mind sometimes can be the athlete's biggest downfall. How do you think that like you were able to just get through it and trust your body?
I think because we moved slow when I didn't want to. It never felt like a big jump or like anything scary. It just felt like a process that was as linear as it could possibly be, which, I mean, wasn't always perfectly linear, but it was very steady.
When it comes to getting ready for the season and training, this is more for you. Do you have your athletes training more together so there is a little bit of that competition and racing?
We usually get that after semifinals. Our Saturdays are a big training day for CrossFit games. You know, traditionally throughout the season, we have Fridays. It's like our Brutal Friday days, where
Is that what you named it? Brutal Fridays?
yeah, yeah, where it's like they'll actually do similar workouts. And it's helpful for me to see it, and sometimes it could be harmful for them to lose to one another. But I know that, especially with the women that we have at our training camp, you know, if you can hang with Danielle on handstand push-ups, you're doing pretty good, right? If you can hang with, you know, Emma in her capacity in a CrossFit style workout, like what we saw on the floor on that burpee and snatch, you're doing pretty well. And the same thing with Fee and her ability just to be able to coast through everything. And so I can see the scores and be able to say, okay, with Emma from here on out, we're going to put more emphasis on this combination of movements before we get into, you know, semifinals, or same thing with Danielle and same thing with Fee. And so having that ability to see them compete with one another is good, but it's not something that we really want to drill in on. You know, I would much rather them have the confidence that training is going well as opposed to competing against one another, especially, you know, these athletes are very competitive, you know, and if they're not winning or feeling like they're winning, you know, it could be a little bit harmful for their psyche. But, you know, we do some smart training in there and still get them very, very fit, and then put in little areas where they can compete against one another. And I'm putting in things very specific where it's like, I know Emma's to do well on this workout. I know Fee's to do well on this workout. I know Danielle's to do well on this workout. So let's see if these girls can keep up. And those are all, you know, put in at the right times.
What is your schedule and your day-to-day training like, and everything else that you have going on look like? What's a typical week for you?
Yeah, we have 2 training groups, and I'm typically in there from around 8 to 11, and then 2:30 to 4:30. Sometimes the second session would run just a little bit late. I mean, sometimes I move through it a little bit slow and like talk too much.
You're being intentional.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
We'll call it that.
And then just outside of that, I've really tried to prioritize like not always thinking about CrossFit, like not always feeling like I need to read a book that's going to help me with CrossFit or be journaling or something. But I mean, just being okay with like going to the beach or spending time with my friends or just doing something that fulfills me outside of the gym, so I'm not putting all of my identity into that.
Is it hard to like separate things? And especially, I know we keep talking about how young you are, but it's like I think of when I was your age and how I didn't have a job, like a part-time job, and like fitness is your job, it's your life. And how do you get about balancing like friends and being able to take times off and maybe just like hanging out, seeing a movie, and all of like that other kind of stuff that most people your age are probably doing all the time?
That is hard for me because CrossFit's really all I've ever known. Like, it's really the only sport I've ever done. I mean, it's pretty much the way I've met everybody in my life. And like, I think that's an amazing thing because now I'm just surrounded by like-minded people. But I mean, I think that's been new to me this year, is actually having the desire to do things that aren't just CrossFit. and like I'm still figuring out what that looks like because I really don't know, because it's really all I've ever done.
What's your favorite hobby outside of CrossFit? Are those all your friends sitting in the front right now? Hi, girls. Oh, come on. Matt, do you know?
Honestly, it's something that I have to talk with her a lot more than I thought I would. Where it's like, don't think about CrossFit. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, I remember this one story. I was at my place, and it was a Thursday swim day, and it was raining, or it was lightning, and she calls me up. She's like, what do I do? It's lightning and thundering outside, and they're closing the pool. I was like, oh, great. Just go do whatever you want. She goes, okay, so what should I go do? I was
Matt,
like,
what are my hobbies?
I was like, if you had any choice in the world to do anything, and it was a Thursday morning, I'm like, what would you do? And in my head, I'm like, I would drive to Miami, go check out the scenes,
Yeah.
you know, come back. I might show up a little late on Friday. You know, it's like, it kind of reminds me of, me telling my little sister, like, go scrape your knees, you know, like, go get dirty, go get in trouble. You know, I'm not going to yell at you if you get into trouble, you know? And she was like, well, you know, I would probably like to go read a book, not about CrossFit, you know, probably go hang out with Barkley, because at this time, you know, her dog was still up in Missouri. And I was like, great, I'm going to go to the beach. Barkley's at the house, come swing on by, come hang out with her.
Oh,
you know,
that's perfect.
You know, and so little by little, it's for me, and this is part of the bigger picture. Yeah, they're going to become fitter humans, but I also want them to create balance in their life and not attach their identity to just CrossFit, you know? And for the teenagers, and it's not just her, but for a lot of the teenagers, I'm seeing this trend of, you know, they want to be great so bad that they put all their eggs in a basket of only doing CrossFit all the time. And the things that you mentioned of, you know, what I was doing as a 16 and 17-year-old, you know, yes, I was playing sports, but also, you know, I was skipping class and go to the beach. You know, I was getting in trouble, not on purpose, but it's just what teenagers do. And so for me, I'm not trying to get her in trouble by any stretch of the means.
I know. I was like, if you ever wind up in jail or something, I think he's the one that's going to need to bail you out, because he's pumping it up.
I mean, goodness, I could never picture that happening. But
no,
you know, finding for her, and it's always funny, you know, listening to her stories and, you know, hearing what the girls did that night or that weekend. And it's also a relief for me to be like, okay, good, because it was difficult for me to listen to the conversation when she couldn't do anything because of her back injury, and she was like, what do I do? Training sessions were short. It was often, you know, 30, 45 minutes, because it was just physical therapy and then get out of here. And it's like, well, what do I do with the rest of my day? And if I'm not competing with these other women, you know, what am I, or who am I? You know, and it's like, they're really tough conversations, and we can laugh about it and joke about it now, but they're very important conversations. And again, if there's other teenagers out there, it's just like, you know, don't spend so much time. That you will become a very great CrossFitter just by spending 3 hours in the gym. It doesn't need to be 6 hours in the gym plus another 6 hours, you know, reading and studying the game and whatnot. You know, and it's something that she's developing on her own time.
So what type of books do you like to read that aren't mindset, CrossFit, etc.?
That's about it.
Romance novels, like sci-fi. I don't know. She's like, no.
I need to branch out.
Okay. I'm going to send you some book recommendations that are not CrossFit. Send them on Amazon.
Yes.
If you were to do anything other than CrossFit, I know based on your other answers, this might be really hard to think about, but like, what would it be? What like other thing is your passion?
I loved anything science related or like the human body. And my goal before deciding to focus 100% on CrossFit was to be a pediatrician, because I also love working with kids. So
I could totally see that.
Yeah, and I mean, I want to compete long enough in the sport that I don't see that like as my goal anymore. But I mean for sure after CrossFit, I want to find some way to tie those passions together.
Cool. Would you ever be interested in like coaching like younger kids that are like up and coming and kind of giving them your expertise when you're 10 years down the road from now?
Yes, for sure. Even just in the time that I have been in CrossFit and like the short time that I've learned from Matt, like I've learned so much, and I just want to share that because of how much Matt has changed my life. Like I want to be able to have that impact on other people too someday. And like what I'm going through now, I know like it's going to help me for years to come. And then after that, I want to use it to help others too.
Before you moved to Florida, did you ever think that like that move would have this much of an impact on your life?
No, I thought I was just moving for CrossFit. Like I thought I was moving to have feedback faster. And I didn't know I was moving like to be cared about so much and to be challenged as a person. To learn more about myself, to be more authentic and to live more true to myself, and like to gain the best friends I've ever had. Like never expected any of that.
Matt, what does it feel like to like know that you're having such an impact on somebody like Emma and I'm sure your other athletes?
Yeah. It tugs at the emotional strings a little bit because it makes me feel really proud. Her growth as a human, I think, is what makes me feel really proud, and really in all the athletes, whether it's 18 years old or 28 years old, and it's the same thing. When I first told them, come down, we'll figure out how to train and get things organized down here. I saw it through that scope as well of we're going to be able to coach you faster, and I'm going to be able to be around here, and we're going to have everyone together, like-minded people. And slowly it's kind of like the relationships are starting to shift and change and grow in ways that we didn't have prior to this because it was remote, and it really does help with the whole process of becoming a better athlete. As you improve as a human, and for her, I think seeing her create balance in her life allows her to bring more energy into the gym. So her brain doesn't feel like it's constantly grinding and working through like, how do I become better at fitness? And then it's exhausting, when you go to a year of training where, it's cool for me and to hear and see the relationships that she's building as well. Because I know, okay, this is working out exactly how I want it to be. And now she will become a better CrossFitter just by her use of energy throughout the day, even outside the gym even more so.
So Emma, did you train this morning?
No.
Okay.
I think I have 3 rest days.
That's what I was going to ask.
Hopefully not more than that. So that's 1 more after today. And I can barely wait, honestly.
Will she have 3 more?
I already planned on bringing her back in on Friday. And I didn't tell her this part yet. So she's just figuring it out right now.
Knows.
Yeah. So you got a lot of time to do whatever you want to.
So this is the opportunity. I will send you those books. Amazon Prime them. You'll have a couple days to read some pages.
Yeah. And it's okay. You're still going to be really fit. You're going to be okay.
You will not lose your fitness from now until Friday. We promise.
Yes.
Well, Emma, Cary, Matt, Torres, thank you guys so much for sitting down with us. I'm so excited to see what the rest of your future holds for you and her first comeback. Ladies and gentlemen, give her a round of applause. Emma Cary. Standing ovation. Yeah.